Last time on BadSeed Tech. What are we going to see from the next Huntsman in terms of speed, features, and typing experience? Will it be enough to stay in front of pros in this crazy competitive market? Alright, so a couple weeks back, we looked at the history of the Razer Huntsman performance keyboard line up to this point, and today Razer launches the next entry in the Huntsman line, and it's not a V4. It's the Huntsman V3 Pro 8K. HZ. As you probably put together, it now has 8K polling. It also has additional foam and switch lube that has improved the typing experience and sound, and it's also available in eSports Green. Outside of quietly adding dynamic keystroke, it offers no new features or functionality than the board that launched over 2 years ago back in September of 23. And that's it for this time. Thank you so— honestly though, I could end the video right there. The majority of the media pitch on this one is that they've now created the fastest keyboard by offering true 1-to-1 8K polling with analog input switches. Something Wooting did back in February of 2024 with the launch of the 80HE, and then later retroed to all existing users of the 60HE Plus via software update. The funny thing about that was that Wooting themselves admitted that while it was faster on paper, the vast majority of users shouldn't consider upgrading exclusively because of 8K, because it really doesn't make a tangible difference to your experience. This, to me, really speaks to where we are with performance peripherals in 2025. From a player standpoint, everything is just kind of good enough now, but that doesn't stop brands from chasing down paper specs in order to say that they're the best in any one particular category. The problem with this is twofold. Razer claims that this new version now achieves a 0.58 millisecond latency versus their previous 1.7 millisecond. Problem one, this is Razer's own internal testing data. We don't have a way to independently validate latency performance claims reliably with numbers this small. Ratings.com shows the latency of that board quite a bit higher. But maybe it's their testing method, right? Like maybe all the boards they test report a bit higher. Here's their comparative latency numbers for the 60HE and the 80HE. Problem two, even if Razer's data is 100% accurate, no one using this board is going to feel that difference. It's pitched as it can be the deciding factor between a resounding loss or a complete victory. I guess if lawyers are approving that copy, technically it can be the deciding factor, but it's extremely unlikely. Razer claims an 11% improvement over their next best competitor, but with numbers this small, that's a difference of only 0.07 milliseconds. Think about that. Show me a human player that can detect that, and I'll show you a Terminator sent to our time from Meta. Skynet. Most of the gear available to us is so good now that if you're still losing, it's you. It's not a lack of 8K polling. The rest of the pitch for this board hopes to establish Razer's optical switch as superior technology and undermine the performance of Hall effect by stating that magnets are subject to other magnetic objects or fields, or that magnet strength degrades over time. We can't argue that having a magnet close to your magnetic keyboard is going to cause issues. That seems obvious, but that takes us right back to our first two problems. People outside a lab can't validate any increased precision. And even if we could, Razer's only talking about 0.1 millimeter of precision, give or take some margin of error. That sounds a lot better when written as 2.5 times better, but no one's gonna feel this. It's also interesting to point out that 8K is the max we can do over the current USB standard. You may see boards out there that advertise 16K or 32K scanning, but they're still going out over 8K polling, so it means nothing. True 8K is the board scanning for input at the same rate it's reporting to your machine in a 1-to-1 ratio, and 8K is the current cap. Now, none of this criticism about the marketing makes the Huntsman a poor keyboard by any stretch. But if you pull those claims down to reality a bit, this still feels like a pretty boring release to me from an innovation standpoint. One thing they have improved is the typing feel and sound over the last model, and that's something it got knocked for repeatedly. So yeah, worlds better than the very low bar set by the previous Huntsman V3 Pro. It's no longer a rattle trap, it still just has a little bit of ping and a little bit of hollowness to it. The switches feel a touch heavier in this new version, presumably because of the increased amount of lube, but I imagine this will settle out in time as they're both rated at the same force of 40 grams. The main downside for me with the Huntsman boards is the lack of customization because you're locked into the switch design. These boards just are what they are out of the box, and minus some keycaps, you're not really going to change a lot here. In terms of analog input features, the Huntsman is one of the more fleshed out offerings out there. Virtually Virtually everyone now offers a version of Wooting's Rapid Trigger and some version of Razer's Snap Tap. These aren't fluff features. These, alongside the ability to set your actuation point, are actual improvements you can really feel in-game, some games more than others. And the Huntsman retains analog joystick emulation where most competitors don't. These are all real advantages that you don't get with a traditional mechanical switch keyboard. The Huntsman doesn't offer mod tap, which triggers a different function if you tap versus long press a key, but it looks like they did quietly sneak in dynamic keystroke, which allows for different actions depending on how far the key is pressed and on release as well. For the competition, Asus does offer mod tap but doesn't have analog joystick emulation. SteelSeries and Logitech currently offer the most stripped back analog experience, lacking mod tap, DKS, and joystick emulation. A big note though is that we're seeing a lot more of moving to a web-based configurator. Right now it's everybody except SteelSeries, Logitech, and Razer. Most of the config can be done directly on the hardware itself, but for some functionality you'll still need Synapse running full-time. At a design level, there's nothing really new here except for that new colorway. Still have media controls, indicators, and possibly the least comfortable wrist rest in all of keyboards. It's literally just a hard plastic plank. On the TKL side, this comes priced at $220 for the black version, $230 for the white, and $250 for the eSports green, which is exclusive to Razer Store. Full-size version comes in at $250 US. Noticeably missing from this launch is a mini 60% version. Make no mistake, this is still a very high-performance keyboard. It may very well be the fastest keyboard out there. I just don't personally feel like those performance margins are enough for that to be a meaningful selling point. They did improve the biggest issue with the board, the typing feel and sound. If you're looking for an out-of-the-box, set-it-and-forget-it board, this is at the top end of performance. If you're looking for a more traditional TKL layout, it's a good pick too. 60% and some of the more creative layouts aren't for everybody. But for my money, I'd probably go with the board the pros tend to favor. These stats are made all the more interesting by the fact that Wooting currently sponsors 0 pro teams. That means none of these people are locked into using any kind of gear because of a sponsorship deal. It's all organic. To be fair, it gets harder and harder to improve on this basic analog keyboard formula. It definitely feels like we've hit another plateau in terms of performance. So overall, I'm pretty bland on it. It's a solid piece of hardware from Razer, some polish to the existing formula. Unfortunately, just not a lot to get me excited. And that's actually it this time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.